Hello, I am Jacqueline Ortiz, aka the Self Love Diva, and I am your host of Self Love Diva Show, which is all about skyrocketing your level of self-confidence and self-love, self-esteem, so you can attract a juicy, sexy, passionate relationship you've always craved. You want to learn more about me, you could at the selflovediva.com. But in the meantime, I'm thrilled, I'm honored to be here with my guest, Dr. Andrea Pennington. Hello, Dr. Andrea. How are you?
Oh, Jacqueline, it's very good to be connected with you. I'm doing great.
Absolutely. And Dr. Andrea has amazing accomplishments beyond incredible, especially you're so young. But here we go. Dr. Andrea is an integrative physician, acupuncturist, meditation teacher, and conscious communication specialist. She's the founder of Vitality and the #1 international bestselling author, highly acclaimed 3 times TEDx speaker, visionary brand strategist for light workers, and co-founder of the Real Self Love movement. Wow. Awesome. That is phenomenal. And today we're going to talk, oh my God, yeah. Today we're going to talk about how self-love saved your life. So why don't you tell us about that, please?
Well, my story is probably not very unique to many of the people who are tuning in. I grew up with kind of this sense that I was never good enough. And I think when I look back on it now, it seems obvious. But my father was very encouraging of everything that had to do with education. So I was always being told that, focus on your grades, make sure you can get into a good university, you can get a good job, and the whole idea for him was really about security. But one of the things that we often don't recognize, is that security is one thing, but your self-worth, especially when it's a parent that's insisting on, get good grades, focus. And for me, I was a performing artist. So I love doing theater and plays and music and recitals. But for my dad, it was always like, okay, that stuff can't, sustain you. And so I started to feel really bad that I wanted to do more of those things. And it affected my self-worth. I didn't feel like I was good enough. And the thing about driving someone down that road of education and achievement is something that we don't realize, is that you never attain enough. There's no such thing as enough. Like once it's a part of your psyche that you're going for that next, report card or that next exam or that job or whatever, you keep going and going. But it's not that you get there and you say, good. If you've been doing this since childhood, it becomes a program that you're like, okay, I have to look for the next thing, whether that's a job or it's a relationship or it's an event or mastering cooking or mastering, ballroom dancing. You're constantly on this search for improvement and looking for that acceptance and that validation. And so in my mid-30s, I'm kind of like embarrassed that it took so long, but I got to a point where I realized I wasn't happy. And even though I got everything that my dad or the medical society or my peers, everything that they said should make me happy, the American dream, I wasn't happy. I wasn't fulfilled. And what's worse is I had this deep-seated anxiety. I would wake up in the morning just with a feeling that I couldn't even describe. I see you nodding, you know what I'm talking about. Right? And it's like you can't necessarily put words on it. When you have that anxiety, it's just like something doesn't feel right. It's like this sense of doom, like something was behind me or coming for me. Yeah. But I couldn't put words on it until I finally hit rock bottom and admitted that I was really struggling. And it was ultimately through going through therapy and eventually coming to the French Riviera that I had a real awakening where I surrendered all of it and literally cried out to God for help.
That is powerful. And I see so much of what you say really resonates with me because I was watching your extremely, extremely entertaining, powerful, enlightening, transformational TED Talk, the latest one, because I know you've had it 3, but the latest one about Journey to Self-Love. And your story, I was just watching you, like, oh my God. looking outside in, where I'm looking at you, I'm thinking you have it all. And it's amazing how we have this persona, this image, and inside is so much pain sometimes. But what I find so transformational and power is you had everything going for you that society says, and you had the strength and the power and the self-love to step out of that and really reach deep inside to what made you happy. So that is amazing. You refuse to settle, and you're learning what's making you happy. You're going for it. So can you please tell our viewers about the TED Talks? It was really inspirational.
Thank you. I'm glad. Well, this most recent TED Talk that you're talking about was really just a continuation of the first one. So my first one, I finally admitted publicly, well, I should say this. Prior to my breakdown, I had a very public career. I was on television every single day, hosting shows and documentaries for the Discovery Health Channel. I was a news anchor for Discovery Health, had been on Oprah and the Today Show and all these things, but I was only known in this very two-dimensional way, kind of doc in the box. And when I broke away, because I had to really find my true self, I ended up moving here to the French Riviera after a spiritual awakening that I talk about in that third TED Talk. But when I got here, and this is really important for all of us on this journey to self-love, when I decided to unplug from that high-powered career and just truly tune in to who I really am and what do I really want my life to be about and stand for, once I got to a place of peace, where I was doing my yoga and meditation, I was really focused on my daughter and making sure that everything was good for her, I started to get to this point where I had this rumbling. I had this like feeling in me like, ooh, I want to get back on TV. I have something to say on stage. And at first I thought it was my ego. So I was kind of like, wait, check yourself, Dre. Come on now. I mean, you just miss being a superstar. But as I sat in meditation, I could tell it was coming from my heart. I could tell it was coming from my soul, because I'm naturally a performer and a teacher. I love, sharing any insight in television and on stage. And so I realized that if I was going to come out again in a very visible way, that I was going to have to let the world know the real me. And so my first TED Talk was in Monte Carlo, and it was very scary for me. My daughter was in the audience. At that time, I was actually teaching applied positive psychology and brand management at the University of Monaco. And many of my students and other professors were in the audience. But I used that TED stage to kind of let people know this is what really happened to me. This is the experience I had with depression and anxiety. And I understood that I was living a portion of me. I wouldn't say my whole life was fake, but it was only a portion of me, and it wasn't fulfilling. And so that first TED Talk was about becoming who you really are. And it worked out really well. And eventually I got to the TED Talk that I just gave a few months ago. And in that one, I was also feeling like, okay, people asked me, okay, now that I recognize that who I'm being is only a portion of me or not the real me, what do I do next? And so I shared more about my journey from how I was diagnosed with depression, and people thought I had ADD because I had so many interests, and how I got to this point of truly accepting and loving myself so much that I could even sing in that third TED Talk.
Which you were amazing. This song, beautiful voice. Oh my God, it's beautiful.
Thank you. It was really about just recognizing that all of who we are, even the bad experiences, even the things we think are mistakes, actually make us who we are. And if we can be conscious right here and right now, we can use all of that very fertile background to start creating a life where we're truly conscious. And again, I opened up a little bit more about how that programming got started and all the diagnoses I carried. And I also shared in that TEDx the out-of-body experience that I had, which I hinted at in my first TED Talk, but I was still very scared to be seen as like woo-woo or weird. Mm-hmm. So So this year I decided, no, people need to know that when I came to France and I had this amazing experience singing in Saint-Tropez, it was as if I was the full me, not just a piece of me. And I had this feeling like recognizing that a few days later I'd have to go home and I'd be going back to America, back to that box. This was back in 2005. I just started to feel that anxiety and that depression mounting up again. And that's when I lost it. I was like, okay, God, I can't do this. I cannot, not even. And in that surrender, in that fully giving up, I mean, I wouldn't have taken my own life. I wasn't suicidal, but I wanted out. And the only thing I knew to do was to cry out to God or the universe or whatever. And it was then that I had this out-of-body experience that I share in that TEDx. And it was there that I saw an expanded kind of view. It's like taking a look back. I could see an entire life review. So I understood why I was depressed, because I'd made all of these choices, even though they were unconscious choices, things that were pushed on me from society and family. But in that instant, I knew why I was depressed. I knew exactly why. And then, I don't know if it was an angel or a guide or something, but there was, in this out-of-body experience, there was some sort of presence that showed me that when we come to Earth, we are like these little droplets of light or soul or God consciousness, whatever that is. For me, it looked like little drops of light. And that when we come into human form, we, the soul, it's up to us to determine how we're going to express ourselves in life and what we're going to become. It's not up to our religion or society or our parents. And when I saw this vision, I was like, I mean, I get to choose what I want. And that was when I literally was like, okay, I'll go back. Even though it was like blissful, the idea of being able to live a life of my own choosing was really attractive. And that's when this vision kind of materialized in front of me, where I saw myself living on the French Riviera, walking hand in hand with a child. And I was single at the time. It was like, what? And I saw that I would be healing with my hands, which I admit was a little weird. I was like, okay, really? You're going to make me like a woo-woo doctor now?
That's powerful, but you surrender, and by surrendering and letting go of the control, everything came through. That's beautiful. I loved it.
That's it. And so I don't know that necessarily you have to go to a foreign country or, perform in a nightclub and have this bliss experience. But I do know now that each of us can really go within and start to ask, who am I really? If you strip away all the labels, all the roles, even your name, your gender, like at your core, who are you? Because when you could really recognize that you're not your body, you're not your mind, you're not a diagnosis or a number on a scale. You are beyond all of that. You're more than that. And when you can really touch that essence of you, you'll recognize that you're actually lovable just as you are. Not because you achieved something or did something or didn't do something, but just because you are an embodiment of pure love and light. And everybody can get to that point. This is what I've spent now the last 15 years working on with clients. And I've worked this system that I write about in my book, I Love You Me. This 5-step system was first developed with my patients in a medical center who were dealing with addiction and eating disorders. These were people who were really, really also at their own rock bottom.
Yeah,
and
I was going to ask you about that, because I know that I believe self-love is a lifesaver, which is funny how you chose the title. We were talking about the title about how self-love saved your life. So I believe self-love is a lifesaver. So as a lifesaver, could you please give us some processes that you have in your book, I Love You Me, so women can get to feel that authentic self-love like you have, which is transformational and inspirational?
Yeah. So the first step is really about awareness and getting to know the real you. For many people, if they can do meditation, or asking questions as they're going into maybe a guided meditation, it can be really helpful. For a lot of my patients, though, especially when I was running this medical center, they were like, meditate? What? No, that makes me fall asleep. So what we found is that there are several questionnaires and assessments you can do that really help identify the real you, like your own spiritual DNA. One of them, for example, that everyone can take, it's totally free. It's called the Vitality Test. And I talk about it extensively in the book. The Vitality Test was developed by this beautiful human in the UK named Nicholas Haynes. And it's based on the 5 elements of Chinese medicine, which I'm also trained in. And the 5 elements, each of these elements, wood, water, earth, metal, and fire, we all have a bit of each of them. But we tend to have 1 or 2 that's a little more dominant. And when you can understand a little bit about the elements that influence you, it gives you like this beautiful snapshot of who you really are, not who you pretend to be or aspire to be. And it creates for you the opportunity to really get into self-acceptance. Because then you start to realize, wow, I'm trying to fight stuff that I shouldn't be fighting. I should be aligning with my true nature. So I really recommend that you visit thevitalitytest.com to take that assessment for free, because that really is your first step towards loving yourself. You have to learn who you really are and learn to accept who you really are. And there are a few other practices that I put in the book, but that's where I start off. The other thing that's been really helpful for my clients and for me is storytelling. So what I mean is, the reason that so many people don't love themselves is because they have a story going on. Many times they're not even conscious of that story. They have a story going on about who they are, about what they deserve and what they're worth and what they're capable of in the world. And if you can make that story visible and become aware of it, you can start to identify the flaws in that story and rewrite it so that you become the hero or the heroine of your own epic life story. And so we encourage people to write, it's a process we call life writing, where you can pick either a turning point in your life, some momentous occasion that really changed things for you, which could be a positive or a negative thing. Or you can write about a peak experience, a time when you felt totally blissful and in a state of flow or being in the zone. And sometimes when you start to write these stories and you read them back, you can start to highlight certain aspects of your character, certain aspects of your personality that were present. Especially if you go back to childhood, you start to recognize, wow, that was a part of me that was so true, and maybe you've lost touch with it. This can be an invitation for you to get back to it. So life writing, or this storytelling, gives you the ability to increase your awareness, to become mindful of the stories that are going on in your subconscious. And then if there's stuff you need to work on, whether that's getting a coach or a therapist, then at least you know where you need to turn. Because if those unconscious beliefs and programs and stories are running, what I found in my clinical practice is they will often block you from the experience of self-love, from the experience of intimacy with another person, from success in business, and even with your physical and emotional well-being. If you have stories, programs in there telling you, you don't deserve happiness, oh, you can't have that, or who do you think you are to have that, things will not progress the way that you want. So those are a couple of the things that we talk about in the book that are really, really helpful for setting you on this path towards self-love.
That's awesome. Yeah, 'cause so many times we have so many things running in our bodies, in our minds, and we don't even know. But one way you know if you have a story, because some people go, oh, I don't have a story. You know you have a story if you don't have what you want in that area of your life. So if you want a marriage, you're like, and you don't have a happy marriage, there's a story behind it. Or whatever it is, there's a story if you don't have what you have. So that's what I love that. That's awesome. Are there any other last minute keys or processes in your book that you would like to share with us today?
Well, I mean, I'm always going to say meditation because it's been so transformative in my life and my clients' lives. And now that we have so much evidence that you literally can change your brain, you can rewire your brain to make you more healthy, more sane, less stressed, and more open to really seeing the beauty of your life and really creating goals that are in alignment with your own values. So in the book, I also go through a 5-step meditation process. It's called the Attunement Meditation, which helps you just kind of get quiet, settle down the monkey mind, and get your brain into expanded states of consciousness so that you can reconnect to your authentic self or to higher wisdom. And I'm happy for everyone to get a free download of that 5-step meditation so that you can do it on your own. But that's the biggest thing I've seen to help people is learning to create some kind of a practice, whether you're reciting a mantra or you're looking at the flicker of a candle flame or you're following your breath, whatever type of meditation that you'll get into, including these guided meditations, or even listening to music or binaural beats, anything that you will do on a regular basis to calm the mind and get your brain into these healthier brain sync patterns is really going to help you. It's going to help you with your stress. It's going to help you with the mind-body connection so you can tune into your body and know what's really going on. And it will give you the courage and the resilience to heal anything from the past that's tripping you up, anything that is blocking you from your experience of having a truly vibrant and fulfilling life. You can start to become more mindful and aware of it through meditation. And then again, if you discover something that really needs some assistance, you find a coach or you find a therapist who's aligned with these same principles and you work through that.
I love that. Yeah, because so many of us aren't aware that we all have different masks that we wear at different places with different people. So once we learn to reveal the mask, then we can revel in our authentic self. So that is awesome. I love that. Thank you. So I'm assuming that if I ask you what would be some doable actionable steps that we can take for the next 24 hours, besides meditation, what else can we do to feel that sense of self-love or go on that journey? Because I know it's not overnight, but a journey towards self-love.
I would say this. I would say get yourself a new journal, some sort of workbook, if you will. Get yourself a journal, maybe brew a little cup of tea or make it iced tea if it's really hot where you are, like it is here for us, and just sit down and write. Free-flowing, nobody else has to read it. You don't have to worry about editing it. And the question I want you to answer is, who am I? Who am I really? And if you would just sit and write over the next 24 hours, just every time you think of the question, just write down what comes up. There's no one right answer. You're going to have many, many answers that come. Oh, I'm a mother. I'm a sister. I'm a daughter. I'm the CEO. I'm whatever. You just write those things out until you get to a point where like, who am I really? If you'd be willing to do that journal exercise, you will find insights in the next 24 hours that will help you on this journey.
I love how you said that. Just keep going, because the first things would probably be like labels or, like you said, mother, businesswoman, whatever you are. But that's what afterwards, like you said, keep going, keep writing without scripting it, and the authentic you will eventually start coming out. So I love that. It's awesome. Wow, what a powerful, enlightening interview. Thank you so much. Oh my God, what a blessing. And I love your story. And it is, self-love is a lifesaver and it's a game changer. It really is. That's what I always say. Thank you. And I know, Dr. Andrea, you have so generously offered to give us some wonderful gifts. Can you expand on that, please?
Yes. So there are many, many things. And I know that some people like to read, some people like to listen. So I have a whole stress less chill kit, which is going to help you in this process. And it's all about building resilience and self-love. So with the link that is next to this or below this video, you can visit this stress less chill kit and download some guided meditations. You can download an ebook about how to build resilience. And you can also download an audiobook on how to liberate and love your authentic self. So That way you get to choose. You can choose which things you like, which things you're drawn to, and you can actually start putting it into practice today.
Awesome. So that is in addition to a 24-hour doable actionable, they could do that too.
Exactly.
They got everything covered. Awesome. Thank you. And I know the viewers will love to learn more about you, and you're so generous in your website with all this content and everything. Can you please tell us how we can get more about you?
Yeah, just visit AndreaPennington.com and you will see a whole host of things that I'm up to in the world.
Awesome. What a blessing. Thank you so much. It's been enlightening. It's been a blessing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing for everyone to really finally master this concept of self-love.
Are you kidding me? I say the same about you. Thank you for going out throughout the world and being a vessel for sharing self-love and your story everywhere. So thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye-bye. Wow.